Awesome. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and get started. My name is Alexa. I am the operations manager here at the BPM RIA office. I just want to thank all the new people in the webinar today. Welcome, super happy to have you. And also just a huge thank you to everybody who always comes back. We definitely appreciate your participation. And these webinars would not be the same without your participation, without your attendance. So thank you so much for being here. Our webinar today is with Synergy Title and Escrow, longtime corporate member of the RIA. They participate in webinars. They come to the in-person networking meetings. They have a lot of clients in our BPM RIA family. So it's great to hear their experience and just all the knowledge that they have. And it's not every day that you get to sit with, the owners of title companies, all these professionals that we bring in to the webinars. So we're going to be discussing the closing process today with Isabel. So to enter into our raffle, you are going to text the word title to 954-800-6961. I'll be sure to put all this info in the chat for you guys in case I run a little bit fast, but I want you all to know that you can win one lucky person will win a prize from Synergy Title today by texting that word to our event line. So I went and put that in the chat for you guys, so you can take note or you can go ahead and take a picture so you can win the raffle today. This is what our week is looking like, everybody. Just a heads up, we do have 3 webinars this week. You can always find our events on the website on bpmria.com on the upcoming events tab. Yes, I'll put this in the chat for you guys. This is what's going on this week. We have Synergy Title today. We have a webinar tomorrow with 2 of our BPM RIA mentors on how to virtual wholesale. That'll be a great one. I don't want to spoil it, but you might want to check the link on the website. There's going to be a good prize tomorrow's webinar. So just a quick heads up for that one. And then we have an amazing other corporate member also presenting this week, Amanda Decker from Florida Entrepreneur Law. So that's great. Oh, this one's a big one. Big star. This should be like in red. This is actually an in-person full day workshop that we're having with Anthony Chara. He is coming back. We just had him for our April 6th main meeting in person. He did an amazing presentation on how to start investing in apartments. And now he's going to be here for a full day, 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. There is limited seating for this one. It is filling up quickly. So early bird ends tonight at midnight. And I have a feeling we're going to sell out with early bird. So there's member pricing as well. So go ahead and check that one out. You can see it on the website. And if you have any questions about how to register for these events, you can always give our office a call or send me an email. I'll be sure to put my contact information in the chat for you guys as well. And then of course, our monthly meeting. This will be on Zoom since it doesn't fall on one of the quarterly dates. So this is going to be a really big one, guys. Melanie Hawk with Why Not Me Academy, how to start and scale a B&B business within 90 days. She's incredible. I'm so excited to have her. So, and a lot of our, RIA family national speakers highly recommended her. And so we're really, really excited to have her speak for our main meeting in May. So of course, one of my favorite ways to keep up with these events, because I know we have a lot, is via text. I get a lot of emails, so I personally love to get a text reminder for these events, especially since you can just register straight from the text. So to get opted in to text notifications for events, you're going to text the word BPM RIA to our event line, 954-800-6961. All right. Oh, I'm so excited to talk about this. So our next boot camp quick start training is May 21st and May 22nd. This is a big deal because we're running this huge early bird special that we've never run before. It is originally $595. We're running this for $197 until April 30th. So if you have anything pulling you, if this is, striking a chord, whatever that saying is, for the mentoring or coaching program, if you're even interested in the mentoring and coaching, I highly recommend going to a quick start first so that you can get to know us better. You are spending 2 full days with us, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's led by our CEO and lead mentor, Estoppel. So there's really no better opportunity to get to know us on that personal level. This will not be like a webinar like we're in right now. It'll be more of a meeting setting. So cameras on, mics on, we're participating a little bit more. We're getting to know the other people in the boot camp, quick start. We'll have new students in here. There's some new students in this webinar right now that are coming. We'll have people who are interested in mentoring and not sure, they want to learn about us a little more. We'll have, traditional agents that want to learn our strategies, what's been working for us personally. So, there's a lot of things that go into this quick start bootcamp, but you can go ahead and press the link in the chat to see who are the 4 amazing speakers that will also have there. And you can always give me a call or email if you have questions about this. I'm going to take note of everybody who's answering the poll right now and give you a call directly to get you more information on this. So thank you so much for answering the poll. I appreciate it. And I'll definitely give you a call back after this webinar so that I can, get in touch with you and see what's going on, see how we can get you signed up for this quick start, especially before April 30th, so you can get that amazing early bird pricing. So I'm going to thank you guys for answering this poll. Oh my gosh, thank you. So yes, the quick start, you're not going to want to miss it. As you guys know, we get huge benefits as a member of the association. This is where you can get into the in-person networking meetings for free. You get big discounts to seminars such as the one we're having on Saturday. Thank you, Sharon. I have you on my list. Thank you. This Saturday, you get special member pricing for that event, as well as this huge national RIA benefit package that we have. It's extensive. Our biggest vendor is Home Depot. So we get huge discounts to Home Depot. And then it comes Office Depot, Office Max, Arcana Insurance, Rent Perfect, so many great vendors. If you have any questions about that, you can always check out nationalria.org, especially to find the closest RIA to you. But we're definitely happy that you all stopped here and that you're here with us today. So if you have any questions about memberships, you can always reach out to our office. But we also have the corporate memberships for business owners as well, who are in alignment with us and they want to rent tables at our meetings and be a part of the networking and be a part of the community. We're loving that too. So 2 options there for you guys. As many of you know, many of our students are in here. We do have one-on-one coaching and training opportunities. This is pretty unique opportunity as there's no other mentoring and coaching program down here in South Florida that's truly one-on-one and someone that will answer your calls, be there for you to get that deal closed, but also putting up the money for the deals so we can get it closed. So this might be, what is she talking about? I highly recommend you go to our website and book a discovery call, or even just check the website out. You'll get some more information by just looking on bpmria.com. I put the link in the chat for you all. You can actually schedule a tiny 15-minute call with me. So that's a good time for both of us to speak about this. I can get you more information, I get you more pricing, all this information, everything that's included. Just go ahead and schedule that call with me via the link that I just put in the chat, which is, you can find it on our website, bpmria.com. So if you have any interest in this, if this looks like, what is this? Just book the call. I'll send you all the information, everything we include in the program, and we'll get you just plugged in. So thank you all for being here. We always want to thank National RIA for everything they do for us. We would not be who we are if it wasn't for the National RIA. We are the only RIA in South Florida that's in compliance and meets all the requirements yearly to be, a chapter of the National RIA. And we always want to thank our corporate members like Synergy Title. All of these people don't have to book webinar and schedule their time to do webinars with us. We're just super grateful. Isabel's here, she's beautiful, she's so helpful. She's helped so many people in our network. So we want to always just take a second to show our gratitude and just, I'm not going to take any more time, guys. I'm going to let her have it. I'm gonna let her have it. Thank you, Isabel. Thank you for being here. We're definitely ready to learn. And we definitely want to know what's going on in your world. Tell us what's going on. I need to know everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I can share my screen, right?
Yes, please. We really want to, we need to know what's going on in the title world, as it could be, you know, a very scary place for those that don't know what they're doing. So we're really just happy that you're here and giving your time and all this. I'm ready for it.
Wonderful. Let me just get this set up and then we'll be ready to start. So thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you everybody for taking time out of your busy schedules to be part of this webinar. I'm going to be as detailed as possible so that this hour of training you'll get as much information as possible. My name is Isabel Galvis, and I'm one of the owners of Synergy Title and Escrow. We are a title company that is located in Aventura. However, we do closings everywhere in Florida. We do closings Kendall, Doral, Brickell, Weston, Pembroke Pines, Palm Beach, everywhere. So we're super excited. This is a company that we really love. All of our team works the same. We put a lot of effort into communication. We're very accessible. So if you have questions, you can give us a call. If you need estimates, you can give us a call as well. But one of the things that I believe make us different also is the training aspect. We are super interested, or we put a lot of effort in training our investors and training our agents in topics that have to do with title, because yes, there's a part that you need to know about the market and about which properties, where to invest, right? But there's also another part that is very important for you to learn, which is the closing part, because there's a lot of information that you need to know in order to protect your investments, in order to protect your transactions. So the idea of today's training is to talk about the closing process today. We're gonna go through the whole process, okay? From the moment that you're looking into a property that you wanna know about closing costs, to the moment that the offer gets executed. We're gonna talk about critical dates. We're gonna be talking about who pays what in the contract. As far as title reports, we're gonna talk about the difference between title search and lien search. I'm gonna give you an explanation on what each report is, because I see a lot of people calling me and telling me, hey, I need to know if this property has open permits. Can you run a title search? And the title search will not give you that information. The report that will give you that information is the lien search. So it's important for me that you guys understand what report gives you what information, okay? We're gonna be talking about coordinating a closing, what you need to know before a closing as a buyer and a seller, okay? So this whole training is about these topics that I just mentioned. So let's start talking about requesting closing costs. So I've seen a lot of you guys like looking into the market, seeing which properties could be possible investments that makes sense for you guys. So when that's happening, one of the things that you want to know is how much will it cost you to purchase a transaction, right? So at the beginning, you want to request an estimate of closing costs. And when you request an estimate of closing costs, you could do it via email or you could do it online. If you do it via email, okay, it's important that you understand what information you need to provide to the title company so that they can give you a proper estimate. So if you are representing a buyer, or if you are the buyer, if it's a cash deal, the only information that we will need to receive in order to provide you with an estimate is the price and the address of the property. That's it. Okay. And the same thing if you are the buyer or you're representing the buyer and that property will be financed, then we will need the price, the loan, and the address. The reason why I took the time to do this slide is because sometimes I get texts or emails saying, hey, I'm looking into purchasing this property in this address. Can you send me an estimate? And no price is included. So it's important that I mention this to you so that when you are requesting an estimate, you remember, if it's a cash deal, it's just price and address. And if it's a finance transaction, price, loan, and address. That's it. Now, if you're selling your investment and you want to know, maybe somebody's putting an offer on one of your properties and you want to know if it makes sense for you or not, you can also request an estimate to us, right? But the information that I will need to know is the listing price, how much are you selling it for, the address, and if you have a mortgage on the property or not. That's very important because if you send me the address and the listing price, but you don't let me know that you have a mortgage on that property at that time, the net that you will see, it's going to be totally different than if I include the mortgage that you owe. So just have that into consideration or in mind when you are requesting an estimate of closing costs. Now, we also have a tool in our website, which is www.synergytitle.com. You can go in, you can click here where it says get a quote, then we'll give you a couple of tabs. You can get like closing costs for cash transactions, loan transactions, and refinances, right? Here you'll see this part in which you can just put the property address, then it's going to ask you who pays for title insurance. Then you as buyers could just mark the buyer tab, the buyer option. Then it's going to ask you who pays for title reports, which we're going to be talking about in a few moments, okay? Because title reports could either be paid by buyer or seller, depending on who chooses for them in the contract. So here, I'll always put these options so you can mark buyer or seller. And then if there are realtors here in this training, it's going to ask you about broker processing fee. You can say yes or no. And then once you hit, once you get an estimate, the website will show you this, how much it's going to cost you to purchase this property, okay? This was a cash scenario. So it's only going to show you closing costs. So it's a good tool if you want to know your closing costs quickly. But I always recommend for you guys, if you want to see like a bigger picture, a bigger scenario of the property that you are buying or selling, to just just send us a quick email saying, Isabel or Clarita, I need an estimate. I'm looking into this property. And we'll give you the bigger picture. So you not only see your closing costs, but you also see an estimate of your cash to close if you're buying, or closing costs if you're a seller, and your net if you are selling your property. Okay. So this is as far as scenarios about asking for closing costs when you are like looking into putting an offer or when you are looking into selling one of your investments. Now, once the property gets executed, now you put an offer, right? And the seller accepted the offer. In order for us to help you with the closing, the information that we are going to need is the contract, right? Writers, and the contact information of all parties involved. That's very important because yes, sometimes I receive contracts and I can open the files and I start requesting reports. But if the seller has an attorney, if this is a property that has an association, I have to ask them if they will be requesting the Estoppel letter on behalf of the sellers or not. Okay, so just don't send the contract like that. Just try to be very detailed. Just attach the contract writers and put all the parties involved, because that will make that transaction more smooth. We'll get in contact with everybody and we will start that process easier. Now, as soon as we receive the contract and we open the file in our system I wanted to talk to you guys about critical dates. These critical dates are very important so that you can protect your investment, your deposits, and everything. And you have to have them super in mind, like your birthdays. Okay, so your critical dates are the executed date, okay, the first deposit, second deposit, inspection period, loan commitment, and closing date. So whenever you get an offer executed, the first thing that you gotta do is work on your critical dates. So you know, okay, so I just put an offer, it got accepted. When do I have to turn in my first deposit? If you guys negotiated a second deposit, then when do I have to put in my second deposit? How many days I have for inspection, okay? If I'm financing, then how many days do I have to provide the seller side with the loan commitment approval, and when is the closing date? The reason why these critical dates are super important is because if you don't comply with them and something happened in the transaction, your deposit could be in jeopardy, right? If you had 3 days to put your deposit and you put your deposit on the 5th day, and then on the inspection period, you decide to just back out, right? And the seller wanna be like a pain, then they can fight your deposit. So that's something that you don't wanna go through. So that's why it's important for you to have in mind what are your critical dates. And every time that you can't meet those critical dates, there's also an option for you to send an extension to that critical date, okay, on the last day, so that you are on compliance, okay, and not in default. So let's talk about the executed date. Nowadays, the executed date is, of course, the day that the seller signs the contract. Okay, so you put an offer, the seller signed the contract, that's the executed date. Now, with the new changes on the contract, okay, the executed date will be the date that you get notified that the contract was executed. So it's important that you know that, and it's important that as soon as you have an executed offer, you write down your critical dates and you send it to the other side saying, okay, our critical dates are this, agree? And that everybody's on the same page. Now, if the seller executed the contract, but there was an initial that was missed, then the executed date will be the day of that last initial. And if that happens to you, don't worry. Then as soon as you receive the contract with the last initial, then you'll write down the critical dates again, and you send it to the other side saying, okay, based on this last change, our new critical dates are. So you put executed date will be this one, and then just expect the other side to confirm that those are the critical dates so that you are always protecting your deposits, okay? Now, let's talk about deposits. So if you see this side right here, okay, this side is where you put the days that you have to submit your deposit. If you leave this side blank, then you'll have 3 days to submit the deposit after executed date. So if the executed date was the 19th, you'll start counting since tomorrow. So you'll start 20th, 21, 22. So you have those 3 days to submit that deposit. If you put a number here, then this is just an example that it's not gonna work in today's market. I have 15 days for deposit, but just to give an example. Nowadays, in this market, you only have 3 days, okay? I think that if you put 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, your offer will not get reviewed in this market right now. So just have this date in mind, and just know that if you leave it blank, you just have 3 days and you need to submit the deposit in those 3 days. If something happened to you, okay, for the ones that are investors, or something happened to your clients, if there's a realtor in the webinar, just make sure that if you need a couple of more days, on that 3rd day, send an extension to the deposit, and then you'll be okay. If there were a second deposit to be submitted, it will be here. And usually if you leave this part blank, it will be 10 days. Okay, so you'll have 3 days to submit your first deposit and 10 days to submit your second deposit. Now let's talk about how to submit those deposits. So the first option is through wire transfer, okay? The title company, as soon as they receive your offer, they're going to send you a welcome email, and they're going to attach their wiring instructions so that you can receive them and submit to, and start sending them their deposit, okay? Now, something that you have to keep in mind, and it's super important, is when you receive wiring instructions, just don't go and send a wire without confirming via phone the account number. There's a lot of fraud going on. So as soon as the title company send you their wiring instructions, please make sure to proceed, call them, verify their routing number, verify their account number, so that you can protect that deposit, okay? Now, another thing is whenever you're asking for wiring instructions, never put wiring instructions on the subject, never put information about account, nothing, because those emails get hacked. So just make sure that as soon as you put an offer and the title company send you their wiring instructions, you're going to see that they're never going to put you wiring instructions on their subjects. They're just going to put information, general information, or synergy title and the property. Just proceed to give them a call, verify the account, verify the routing number, and then just proceed to send your escrow deposit, okay? Now, we have another option, which is called SUCA. This is very convenient for people that do not want to send their deposits via via wires. These allow them to send their deposit via personal checks, okay? Personal checks. So you just need to download the app on your phones and register. And as soon as you register, you just need to choose Synergy Title. Then you'll click the location of our office, and then you'll put the information of the transaction. You'll put the property address, the amount of the deposit, who's the buyer, who's the seller, and then you'll take a picture of the check front and back, like if you were submitting a deposit through your bank. And this app is so wonderful because it's integrated with our system and with our bank. So as soon as you take a picture of the check front and back, then you'll receive a confirmation, right? And an escrow letter that you can submit to the seller side. This is very helpful in scenarios where people only want to do checks, okay? Submit the deposit via checks. And when you're reaching the third date and you're super late and you need to send it right away, this app allows you to have an escrow letter at any time. So if you forgot and it's, let's say, Thursday night, you can just go through it, and then you'll be able to send the other side a confirmation that you submitted the deposit on time. I have a small video. Let me show you. It's very simple. That will show you how this app works. It's super simple. Here. So you see, you download SUCAM, you register, you put capture, earnest money. Then you'll choose Synergy Title. You'll click on our logo. You'll click on our address, and then you'll put in all the information of the transaction. And then you take a picture front and back, and you'll receive confirmation that we received your deposit. Okay. Here, 1 second. Okay, now let's continue with our critical dates. The other critical date that we need to go or talk about is the inspection period. The inspection period is point 12 in the contract. If you left this section blank, it's 15 days. In today's market, I recommend 5 to 7 days for your offers to get reviewed. So it's important that if you put that 5 or 7 days, just have your team available, right? Know who your inspector will be. And as soon as your offer gets accepted, please schedule an inspection. Just check if the property is okay. If there's some things that will need to get negotiated, you have those 5 to 7 days to negotiate with the seller side. And if the seller side is not going to give you any credit, then you can back out of the contract without having your deposit to be in jeopardy. Okay. Or if you just want to move forward, then you can. But just make sure that that negotiation period, if something comes up on the inspection, is determined by the days that you put on point 12 of the contract. Okay. Perfect. Now, I've seen it a lot also. If you are scheduling an inspection and something happened and you need to extend, you can also do it. Just make sure you use a blank addendum requesting few more days for your extension, for your inspection. Okay. Just don't wait until the next day where your inspection period is expired to talk to the other side to see if they will allow you a couple of more days to do an inspection. Okay. Just have those critical dates in mind, and whenever you cannot reach them, request an extension so that you never put your deposit in jeopardy. Now, for those who are buying with a loan, point 8 of the contract will tell you when or what days you have to submit a loan commitment approval. Okay, usually if left blank, which is this section right here, it's 30 days. Okay, and the same thing happened. Whenever you're reaching those 30 days, you have to talk a lot with your loan originators. And if they tell you, hey, we're gonna need a couple of more days, I'm not sure we're gonna be able to reach that date, make sure you submit an extension of that loan commitment approval date. And if you're moving your loan commitment approval date, make sure you also extend a couple of more days your closing date. That's an advice that I would like to give you, that I'm giving you, so that whenever you move the loan commitment date, just move your closing date as well, and you don't have to create two extensions. Okay. Perfect. And as far as the closing date, then you'll see it on the first page of the contract. Okay. It's point 4, in which you'll put how many days you consider you're going to be able to close. So as you know, cash offers are really quick to close. You can close them in 20 days, in 15 days. My recommendation to all as a title agent is to put always like on or before 30 days, on or before 25 days. Why? Because yes, cash transactions are easy, are simple. We just need few reports, which are title search, lien search, Estoppels if the property is in association. But if something comes up on title or in the lien search that will need to get fixed, then we have a couple of more days to take care of that. If reports come back clear, since you have the on or before, then as soon as we receive reports and we say, okay, we're clear to close, seller, buyer, are you ready? If parties want to close before, we'll do it. But if not, then you don't have to go through the process of requesting an extension because you put that the transaction was going to be closed in 15 days or in 10 days. Okay, that's my recommendation. Okay, but it's always up to you guys. Perfect. So we've talked about getting an estimate. We've talked about once your offer gets executed, what you need to provide the title company with, which was contract, writers, and the information of the parties involved in the transaction. We've talked about critical dates. And now we're going to talk about who pays for title reports. Okay. So the title reports are the title search, the city lien search report, the Estoppel letter, and the survey. Now, title search and city lien search, okay, could be paid by buyer or seller. Okay, buyer or seller. It depends on who chooses to pay for them in the contract. And I'm going to show you shortly where do you choose the option of who pays what report. Okay, now the Estoppel letter, it's always paid by the seller. and the survey is always paid by the buyer. Now, surveys are obligatory when you are working on a finance transaction of a property that is a single family, okay, or a townhome that their legal is a lot and block. If it's a condominium, then you don't need a survey, of course. Now, if you're buying cash, you need to if you want a survey, you need to know, you need to let know that like the title company that you will need a survey. It's super important that you let them know. If not, they're not gonna just request it. Okay, so it's important that if you're buying a single family, you're paying cash, and you want to know the limits and the boundaries of the property because you're gonna put a fence or anything, just have the title company know that you want a survey as part of the transaction, okay? Here, so where in the contract do I determine who pays for title search and lien search? In point 9, paragraph C, you could see that there's 1 eye, 2 eyes, and 3 eyes. Okay, the 1 eye that you see right here, it's a standard for properties in Palm Beach, Orlando, and Tampa, and to choose that option in where the seller chooses the title company. Whoever chooses the title company pays for the buyer title insurance policy. Okay, so in this scenario, the seller chooses the title company, as I just said, pays for the buyer's title insurance policy, and pays for the title search and the city lien search report. Okay. Now, for properties that are located in Broward County and Miami-Dade County, the standard is for the buyer to choose the title company. Since the buyer is choosing the title company, then the buyer pays for their owner title insurance policy. The only difference here between the 2 eyes and the 3 eyes is who pays for title search and lien search. Okay, so if the 2 eyes are chosen, then the buyer will pay for those 2 reports. If the 3 eyes are chosen, then the seller is paying for those 2 reports. So I made like a graphic here that it's gonna make you understand everything better. So if the 1 eye is chosen in the contract for properties in Palm Beach and up, okay, or short sales, then the seller chooses the title company, right? Since the seller chooses the title company, then seller pays for the title insurance of the buyer, pays for title search, and pays for lien search. Okay. Now, if the 2 eyes are chosen, then the buyer pays for their owner title insurance policy, pays for the title search, and pays for the lien search. Okay. Now, if the 3 eyes are chosen, which is the most common option that I see in contracts, then the buyer chooses their title insurance policy, but the seller will pay for the title search and the lien search report. Now, another thing that it's important for me to explain to you guys, because I've seen it a lot, is sometimes when these options are marked, there's a misunderstanding that, oh, I chose the 2 eyes. So that means that the buyer is paying for all seller closing costs. And that is not true. The only fees that we're talking about in these options are title insurance, title search, and lien search, nothing else. If in the negotiation between the parties, they came up that the buyer will pay for absolutely everything, all seller closing costs, then you have to add that in the additional term saying buyer is responsible of paying for this closing fee, this closing fee, this closing fee. If not, then you're gonna have a lot of errors in that transaction, because I've seen it a lot happening that they mark the 2 eyes and they're saying, no, I marked in the contract that the buyer will pay for all, and that is not true. By marking 2 I's or 3 I's, you're just saying who pays for the title insurance for the buyer and title search and lien search. That's it. So whenever there's going to be further negotiation as far as closing costs between the parties, you need to, in an additional term, part of the contract, or in a separate addendum, just mention which fees are being paid by the seller or by the buyer, okay? In the event that you negotiate that one of the parties will pay for all seller's closing costs or for all buyers' closing costs, okay? Perfect. So, okay, now let's go on. Let's talk about what the title search is, what the lien search is, what the Estoppel, and what the survey report is. So the title search is a report that we request through our underwriters. So our underwriters could be Fidelity National Title Insurance, right? Or Republic, WFG. They are the ones that we go to request title searches. So they go into public records. They have access to different searching engines, and they go and check what has happened during the time that this seller has owned this property. They do a search of everything that has happened on the property, but they also do a name search on the owner, okay? And everything that comes up will pop up in a document called a title commitment. That report will be provided to us between 3 to 5 business days. Now, in today's market, since there's a lot of volume, we could see those reports coming in between 5 to 7, 7 to 10 business days. That's why we're always monitoring those reports and just following up with our underwriters to see if we can receive them before those 10-day period of time, okay? Now, the information that we're going to see in those reports is everything that has been recorded in public records, like liens, code enforcement liens, judgments, mortgages, title defects. Everything affecting title will come up on a title search report, okay? Now, in order for us to say we're clear to close, we'll have to go over each and every requirement of that title commitment, okay? So if in the title commitment there was a title defect, we have to clear it. If there's a mortgage, then we have to request a payoff. If something comes up against the owner, we have to check if whatever comes up, like a judgment, belongs to that owner or not. So if it does, then we have to like reach out to that, let's say a credit card, and get a payoff. If not, then we have to create an affidavit saying that the owner of that judgment is not our seller in this transaction, and they will sign that document as part of their seller docs. So this is a report that is very important to us because it will show us the scenario of the title of the property, okay? And we have to clear it in order to be able to close and insure the transaction. Now, the lien search report is a report that we request through a third-party vendor, and it's a report that will show us what has happened on the property as far as the city, municipality, where the property belongs, right? The time that the lien search could take to come back could be 3 to 5 business days, 5 to 7, 7 to 10, 10 to 15. It depends where the property is located at. So if it's in Miami, it could be 5 to 7 days, but if it's Miami Beach, it's 15 days. If it's Boca Raton, it's 15 days. So whenever you're putting an offer on a property, right, and you want to close, you want to say, no, if this is a cash deal, I want to close it in 7 days. If the property is in Boca Raton, you cannot close it in 7 days because we need to get all the reports in order to check and be able to be ready and clear to close. So whenever you're putting an offer and you're trying to check what closing date should you put when you're buying cash, you can also give us a call and say, hey, I'm trying to put an offer, I want to close fast, and the property is located in this city. Do you think it's possible to reach this time frame, and we will advise you properly on if yes or not. Now, also have this in mind. We could tell you that yes, you could put a closing date of 15 days because the property, let's say it's in Miami, right? But if the reports come back with code enforcement, title defects and things, you gotta give us ample time to clear those things that come up on those reports. That's why for me, it's important to tell you in this webinar that if you're putting an offer that is cash, just put an on or before of a month or 25 days. So if we're ready before, we'll close it. Trust me, we wanna close all transactions fast. But if we need time, you don't have to bother the seller requesting an extension. Okay, so that will be my advice. Now, as far as the lien search report, the information that we're going to see is everything that all liens that have not been recorded on public records yet. Okay, that's important. All liens that have not been recorded on public records yet. So that's why we have to request this report. We gotta make sure what's going on with the property so that they cannot become a lien in the future, right? So the type of information that we see here are open and expired permits, violations, delinquent taxes, code enforcements that are not liens yet, right? And utility accounts. That's the information that we see on the lien search. So it's important for me that you understand this because sometimes I receive calls and they want to know about open permits and they're telling me to run a title search. And in the title search, we're not going to see that information. Just know that the title search will show us everything that has been recorded on public records. And it's everything that has to do with liens that affect the title of the property. And the lien search, it will show us information as far as open permit violations, delinquent taxes, code enforcements, utility accounts, liens that are not recorded yet, but could become a threat to the title of the property. So that's the difference between those two reports. Now, when we request a lien search, we request this lien search not to our underwriter. We just use a third-party vendor. In this case, it's PropLogix. It's integrated with our system. We just request a lien search through them, and then we'll receive the order in that time frame, depending on the city, of course. Now, let's talk about estoppel letters. Okay, the seller is the one responsible for the estoppel. Okay, the estoppel fee will be charged to the seller. Estoppel letters are needed when you're buying a property that belongs to an association or a condominium. The time frame could be, depending on the association, of course, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 7 to 10, or 10 to 15. There are a lot of associations that take a long time. So that's why at the beginning I told you, it's important when you put an offer, you let us know who are the parties involved in the transaction so that we can reach out to the seller and ask if they have an attorney. Why? Because if there's an attorney involved, we cannot just request an estoppel, right? We have to go through them and ask them, hey, are you requesting an estoppel for your client or you want us to do it? If we get this information at the middle of the transaction, then if they tell us at the middle of the transaction, oh yeah, they're gonna have an attorney representing the seller, and then the attorney takes 2 more days to just confirm that they will be requesting the estoppel or that we need to request the estoppel, and then this association will take 15 days for the estoppel to be prepared, then we're gonna be late and we're gonna miss the closing date. So that's why we need to know the information of the parties so that from the beginning we know who will be requesting that estoppel so that we can proceed to do it on a timely manner. Okay, now the information that we'll see on that estoppel is pending balances. We're gonna see if our seller has any balances that he or she owes. And if she does or he does, then we're going to add it as far as closing costs, right? Those balances will get paid at closing. We need to see payment cycles. We need to see if this seller pays monthly, quarterly, annually. So proper preparations could be done at closing. We need to see if there are violations that will need to get corrected prior to closing. We need to see if the association has any type of litigations that buyer will need to know about, right? And we need to know if buyer requires approvals. So whenever you're purchasing a property that has an association, you need to ask that association if you need a certificate of approval, right, in order to live in that community. Okay. The reason why this is important is because we could be clear to close, but if you didn't apply to the association and you don't have a certificate of approval, we cannot close. And the reason why is because the warranty deed gets recorded with that certificate of approval from the association. As soon as we receive the estoppel, we will verify if the buyer needs approval. So you need to apply quick. There are associations that will approve you in a week, but there are associations that will approve you in a month. So if all reports were requested in a timely manner, right, and we're ready to close, but you didn't apply or you apply late, then we're not gonna meet the closing date. Now, another thing that I see happening a lot is you put an offer in which you're going to be buying as an individual, right? And in the middle of the transaction, you say, you know what, I'm just gonna buy it as a company. You could do that. You just have an addendum saying that buyer and seller agree that the new buyer will be this Isabel Galvis LLC, right? If you do that and you apply to the association already, you gotta remember or know that as soon as you make a change on how you're gonna take title, you need to notify that association because the certificate of approval needs to match the warranty deed. However you take title is the same way as the certificate of approval has to come up. If I am taking title as Isabel Galvis LLC, but I apply to the association just as Isabel Galvis, that's not gonna work, okay? It has to be Isabel Galvis LLC as well, okay? Or another thing that I see happening is I'm gonna buy for me a property, right? And then in the middle of the transaction, I say, you know what, I'm gonna add my friend, my cousin, or my business partner, right? Let's say it's me and Clarita. And I already applied for the association and I add her and that's okay. But then I received that certificate of approval showing that I'm the only one approved. That's not gonna work. If you add somebody to title, then the certificate of approval needs to show Isabel Galvis and Clarita Wiener as owners of this property. Have that in mind. I see a lot of mistakes like that happening. So just make sure whatever change you do in the middle of the transaction on the way you're gonna take title, just make sure it matches the way that you apply to the association and you're going to be okay and be on time. If you miss that, then there's gonna be a delay because we need to contact the association and a change to that certificate of approval will be required, okay? Perfect. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about the estoppel is that sometimes when we receive a contract that is closing in 60 days, on the 20th day, I see a lot of people saying, hey, Isabel, has the estoppel been requested? No, we're not gonna request an estoppel until we are on the second month, right? Because those estoppels expired. So we don't wanna request an estoppel. If we're closing on 60 days, then we're gonna get an estoppel on the day 30th of the first day of next month so that we don't have to request an estoppel twice, right? Because then the seller is going to be a little mad because those estoppels are not, are expensive, right? Are 200 and something, 300, 400. Sometimes there's two associations. So just have that in mind. If we receive a contract that has a 60-day closing period, we're gonna just wait until we're missing 1 month to request that estoppel. Now, if you submit a contract that is closing on 60 days, but something changes and you wanna close before, okay, start talking to that title company saying, hey, we have a 60-day closing period, but I think we're gonna be able to close before. Do you think you can start getting that estoppel going? Because if you don't tell the title company, they're just gonna wait, okay, so that they don't have to request an update. And then if you wanna close faster, that estoppel letter has not been requested. So just have that in mind in the event that that scenario happened to you. Perfect. Now let's talk about the survey. The survey is another report, okay, that we request when we're dealing with single family properties or townhomes that their legal descriptions are lots and blocks. So whenever you're financing, a survey is required, it's obligatory. Whenever you're buying cash, it's not. So just know that if you're buying a property cash, right, and you want the survey, you have to request the survey. If not, the title company is going to proceed and request regular reports, which is title search, lien search, and Estoppels. We're not just gonna think that you're going to want that survey, okay? So it's important that you keep that in mind. That survey will show us, it's like a map of the property, the limits and the boundaries of the land that you're buying, okay? That survey takes 4 days to come in. We request it through a third-party vendor. And it's important if you are buying, as I said, a single family that has land and that you're going to put a fence, or if you're going to put a pool, or just want to check that your neighbor is not on your land and that you are not on your neighbor's land as well. So that's why the survey is super important. So just know that when it's a finance transaction for a single family, it's an obligation. We're going to request it. If it's a cash deal and you really want it, you have to request it to the title company, okay? Perfect. So let's say all reports have been requested. We have cleared all reports and we have sent you an email saying, hey, Alexa, we're clear to close. Now let's start planning for the closing, okay? When we start planning for the closing, you gotta know that we could either close in our office, okay? Or we can send you a mobile closer to wherever location you or your clients are at, right? In order for us to do that, okay, it's important that you know that we need to know where you're at and what times are convenient for you. And also know that if you are a seller and you are close and you want to close at 5 p.m. in the afternoon, then we're not going to receive originals until next day. And if that happens, that transaction will not disburse. So whenever you're not closing in our office, but because you're going to need a mobile closer, right, to be sent to your office or to your house, try to plan it and see if you can sign ahead of time, 1 day before or the same day of closing. But if you do that, make sure that you close in the morning so that we can have that mobile closer come and provide us with originals, because without originals, we cannot close, okay? And why is that? Because if we close without originals and something happened, a warranty deed gets lost, or if it's a mortgage, the mortgage package is lost, then it's going to be a problem. Remember that you can only notarize with the closing date or the day before if it's for the seller, and if it's for the buyer, you can only notarize the day of the closing. So if we missed a lender's package because somebody signed with a mobile closer at 5 p.m. or at 4 p.m. way up in, I don't know, in Palm Beach, right? Then the new package that will need to get re-executed will need to have another date. So it's not gonna work. So whenever we're assigning closings with mobile closers, just make sure to either, if you're a seller, if you're a seller, schedule the closing 1 day before, or try to talk to the title company to see if you can sign early in the morning so that they can receive the originals so that they can disburse that day, if you're sellers, right? If you're buyers, right, and you're buying cash buyers only need to sign 2 documents, which is closing agreement and HUD, unless there's something that came up on title that will require a notary stamp. Okay, so cash buyers are simple. You can come to the office or we can send you the documents electronically. Okay, so that you can do an e-signature and that's it. Now, RON. I don't know if you guys are familiarized with RON, okay? RON is remote online notarization. After the pandemic, this is a tool available for title companies to be able to notarize online. But in order for us to use this platform, we need to satisfy or meet certain requirements. We can only use RON for sellers, okay? For buyers that are financing, lenders haven't approved this system yet. In the future, I think they will, but right now they don't allow packages to get notarized through RON. But sellers, yes. So if we're trying to sign through RON, if the seller is a foreign national, right, and they are in any other state and they don't want to use a mobile closer, we can use this platform for them to sign the documents. Now, if the seller is a US citizen, right, signing in any other state or in any part of the world, RON is a very accessible tool for them so that they don't have to go to the American embassy to sign, right? But if we're signing a seller that is a foreign national, then we have to get certain approval, okay? We cannot just tell them, oh yeah, we can sign the documents for you. We need to just talk to our underwriter, let them know that they're foreigners, that's one. Then see if the parties in the transaction, meaning the realtors, know that seller, okay, that is a foreigner, and tell our underwriter that we're signing a seller that is a foreigner and that the realtor will be willing to be at the session, at the RON session, right, signing an affidavit saying that they know that seller. And if this is the scenario, then we need that approval in writing from our underwriter saying, yeah, you can go ahead and sign and approve this seller to sign via this platform, sign an identity affidavit, right, and sign with a Virginia notary. So we can plan for that, but just know that we need certain layers of approval in order to sign sellers that are foreign nationals, okay? Because if you're a US citizen and you use RON, they just run your social security, and at the beginning of the session, they just run like a security check based on your social. But if you are a foreigner that you have no social, the only way to be able to have certain level of protection is by having your agent pop in the session, sorry, and sign an affidavit saying that they know you and that they have a business relationship, and have them sign an affidavit of identity. So just know if you're dealing with foreign sellers, or if you are a seller that lives outside, abroad, this option is available for you. Okay, just know that that has to be talked with us so that we can start working on the scenario and the approvals in order for that to happen. Okay, perfect. Now let's talk about before closings, what do you need to know as a seller and what you need to know as a buyer. So when you're buying, right, if you are a seller, what you need to know is the amount of sale proceeds. So you need to see that HUD or that seller CD before the closing so that you can just check and make sure that everything makes sense to you, right? Just note that proceeds can only be disbursed to the seller owner of record. That happens a lot. Sometimes I see that there are sellers that have that are LLCs, and they sign their seller proceeds and then they provide us with different accounts. That cannot happen. We can only disburse to the LLCs, to the owners of records. So if Isabel Galvis is selling, then Isabel Galvis has to provide us with a bank account so that we can send her the proceeds. I cannot say, okay, you can send those to my sister, to my brother. No, that can't happen. And it's not because we want to be difficult. It's just because our underwriters require us to do it that way, because that's the proper way of closing a transaction, okay? Now, another thing that you need to know as a seller before coming to closing is your closing costs. That's why the closing agent will send you a HOD or a seller CD for you to verify your closing costs. And if you have questions, just address those before coming to the table. Your mortgage payoff, also it's important that you check. Something happening a lot is we could receive a payoff that is good through the end of the month, and you're closing on the 15th, and you also did a payment at the beginning of the month. Don't worry, just note that that amount will be paid to the bank, right? And the bank will do proper accounting, and the difference between the day that they receive the funds and the good through date of the payoff, that money will be returned to you. And the same will happen with your escrow account. Banks will close the account, will return difference to you. And if they have an escrow account, that escrow account will be reported that the mortgage was paid, and they will return that money to the sellers. That's a question that pops out a lot. Okay, another thing is property tax payments. If you as a seller or your client as a seller did not pay for last year's taxes, those taxes will be collected at closing. Okay, so just check for that. Special assessments, if there's a special assessment, who pays for those special assessments will be determined by the condo writer. So if you're selling a property that has special assessments, that gets negotiated from the beginning. So just have that clear. Make sure that the correct option gets marked when you guys are getting into a contract, so that whenever you receive your HOD or your seller CD, there's no surprises for you as a seller. Okay. And the same for a buyer. If you are the buyer, or if you have a client that is the buyer just need to know the cash to close. Just note that cash to close will be given to the buyer the one day before closing. Okay. If it's a finance transaction, that cash to close doesn't depend on us. Okay. Remember, it's important that you understand that when we're dealing with a finance transaction, once the lender says, oh, your file is clear to close, what's going to happen is that lender will move the file to a closing department. That closing department will assign a closer. Then that closer will contact the title company, provide their numbers, so that the title company will put all the numbers, title and lender together, will send that back to the lender. The lender will check, make sure that we balance. And if we do balance, that's the cash to close. In that point in time, we can just let you know what, as a buyer, hey, your cash to close is this. This is the wire instruction. You can move forward and send the wire. Okay. That's important for you to understand. It's not, because I see a lot of people calling us saying, hey, what's my cash to close? What's my cash to close? When it's a finance transaction, and it doesn't depend only on us. It depends on once the file gets clear to close, once it gets moved to a closing department, and then once they start balancing with us. So once we have the same cash to close, we will let you know what's the amount, so that you can do your wire or plan accordingly. Now, another thing that you need to know as a buyer before closing is your interest rate. Nowadays, you have the advantage that if you're closing through trade, if you're closing with a closing disclosure, you'll receive a summary of everything 3 days before closing. Okay. Now, homeowners insurance policy, important. When you're buying a transaction financed, it's a requirement from the lender that you get a homeowners insurance policy. Okay, when it's not like a private lender. So that homeowners insurance policy, sometimes I see it that usually it gets paid from closing, but sometimes it says that it's paid out of closing or before closing. If that's the case, make sure that it's really paid either after closing or before closing, because if not, you'll start your mortgage without a policy. So that has to be cleared up with your lender if it's that scenario. And the last thing is special assessments. Special assessments, as well as the seller, need to get addressed. Where do you see who pays for what? In the condo rider. That has to be negotiated and clear from the moment that those contracts gets executed, so that you don't have to go and just be surprised because in the HUD you see that there's this amount being collected on this side or in this other side. No, you have to know if you're buying a property that has a special assessments, and whenever you put an offer, just mark the option that is convenient for you. Make sure that the other side understands that and that everything is clear from the beginning. That's my advice when there are special assessments. Please know that in the contract, okay, the amount that you put in the contract, right? Sorry, that the part in the contract where it talks of special assessments, it talks about special assessments of the city, not the condominium. The condo writers talks about special assessments that have to do with association. So just know that if you mark the part in the contract where it says the seller will be responsible for paying special assessment, that's only talking about special assessment from the city, not condominiums. So make sure that if you're buying a property that has association or condominiums, you include a condo writer, and that specify the correct person who will be in charge of, the correct party who will be in charge of paying for assessments. Perfect. And then the last thing is at closing, what do I need to bring with me to the closing? Just bring wire transfer information if you send the wire already, just the confirmation, valid IDs, make sure that your IDs are valid, and any and all original documents if required. So if you are buying a property that has an association and you receive the certificate of approval, please make sure to bring the original at closing. If you are a seller, right, just make sure that lien releases or satisfaction of mortgages are brought in, okay, the originals, because we will need to record those, okay? And the last thing is a certificate of reoccupancy, important. Whenever you're dealing in a transaction, right, or you're buying a property that the city requires a certificate of reoccupancy, make sure that you know from the beginning who's paying for that. Is it the buyer? Is it the seller? Have that clear. Okay, Hialeah requires a certificate of approval. Miami Lakes requires a certificate of approval. I think Miami Beach, So it's important from the beginning to see who's paying for it, who will be applying for it, okay? So that you don't go to the end and then we're ready to close, but then where is the certificate of approval, and neither buyer or seller knows about it. So just be sure that whenever you're buying a property that requires a certificate of reoccupancy, it gets negotiated from the beginning, meaning like saying, hey, okay, the city requires a certificate of reoccupancy, who will be paying or applying for it? You as a seller or the buyer? And some sellers say, no, we will take care of it. Or there are some sellers that will say, no, you take care of it. So make sure you do that on a proper time. Okay. And I think that's it. So this is the end of the webinar. I hope that all this information was valuable. I don't know if you have questions or not, but if you do, please proceed to put them in the chat. I'll be more than happy to address them. I hope that all the information provided has added to your understanding. I hope that I was clear. And if I was not, then you can give me a call and I'll be more than happy to address any scenarios that you have. And hopefully we can work together in future transactions.
Amazing. Oh, Isabel, you killed it. Thank you, everybody who put those questions in the Q&A. Keep them coming. We do have 10 more minutes to answer those. And for those who are asking for a recording of this, yes, we do record and we post this on our YouTube channel. The link will be in the chat for you guys. We definitely want to get those questions answered though, because we're going to answer those live. So if you do have any questions, pop them in the Q&A. And we're going to get to those right now. So let's see, we have a couple questions here already. All right. How much does it cost to do a title and lien search?
Perfect. So for that question, a title search is 200 and a lien search depends on the city where we request that report. So just for you to have an estimate, a lien search could be between 250 to 350 to for something. Okay. Just whenever you're going to request one, just let us know and we will quote you. But just to have like an idea, it's around 250, 350, the standard ones. Okay.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. So this question, do you work with investors? Isabel wouldn't be here right now with us if she didn't work with investors, as we are a real estate investor association. If you went to our website, there's a vendor partners tab on the top. You would click that, you'd find Isabel, her logo, contact, all that there on our website. I'll put it in the chat for you guys. So yes, Isabel does work with investors, but we also have an additional question in that. Do you do double closings?
Yes, we do. The only requirement is that we close A to B first and then B to C.
Amazing, amazing. So here's the vendor partners link in the chat for you guys. You can find her there as well. I'll be sending you guys a thank you email at the end with her information as well. So we have another question. If a married couple sellers ask to split 50-50 the proceeds, is that okay?
Yes, that is okay. If the married couple, of course, owners of title, they'll be signing what's called disbursement authorization. So in that disbursement authorization, okay, they'll mark 50-50, they'll put the accounts, or in our HUDs, we'll put 50% of the proceeds will go to the wife, 50% of the proceeds will go to the husband, and they will sign a disbursement authorization putting their accounts. It's okay.
Okay, perfect. So I see somebody followed up the double close question. Is there a discount for double closings?
Yes, there is a
Okay.
discount for double closing. Yes.
Okay. All right. Amy, it's our first webinar, said great information. How does this process work for a house purchase from the county's foreclosure auction?
This is the thing, when you buy in an auction, you're buying the property without title insurance and with everything that the property has. So you gotta be careful when you're purchasing through the court. Okay, when you're when you're purchasing a foreclosure property. Okay.
Okay.
Because you don't go through the regular process. Okay, you just buy it how it is and you inherit everything that it has.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I see one more question. If you guys have more questions, we have a couple more minutes, but I see one more here. If husband and wife is on title, do both have to sign to sell?
Yes.
Makes sense.
Yes.
All right.
Another thing, if I bought a property, right, as a single woman, and it's my primary residence, and I got married, and then I sell my property, if that's my primary residence, even if I am the only one in title, my husband will have to join on the deed for me to sell the property.
Alrighty.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty. Well, thank you everybody for all the questions. Thanks for being here today. Thank you so much, Isabel.
No,
We'll definitely see you. Mark your calendar, August 3rd, our next in-person meeting. I pray that you both are in town for that one.
For sure,
But
yes.
yeah, we'll keep meeting online. Hopefully we have another webinar soon. But thanks everybody for being here today. I'll follow you guys up with an email after this webinar. So you can get in touch with Isabel in her office and hopefully work with them very soon. As you can see, they're very, very nice women that run this company. So thank you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow at the webinar and Thursday, hopefully. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great
Alexa,
day.
and thank you everybody for being part of this webinar and for taking the time to attend. It means a lot to us. So,
awesome. Yes. Thank you so much. We love it. Have a great Taco Tuesday, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much.